Hello guys, welcome back to our MAKADEL online training. So today I'm going to teach you guys how to cut, draft a shirt dress, not a shirt, shift dress rather, shift, S-H-I-F-T, shift dress, okay? What's a shift dress? It's actually, from what you're seeing in the video or the picture or whatever, okay, a loose wear, right? It's a straight gown, but it's also loose. That's a shift dress. Okay, so it's not fitted to your body, but it actually has a whole lot of ease. So however big you want to make it, it depends on the ease allowances you're going to add to it. So that's what I'm going to be teaching you. And then this shift dress, we are going to be making it like a plain and pattern. Okay, so for you that is doing pattern drafting, you can do the same thing. For you that is doing freehand cutting, please just replicate what I am doing here on top of your fabric using your tailor's chalk. There's no difference. If you have watched my basic bodies video, you know that I taught a very simple way of doing a basic body. So I'm also teaching you a very simple way of creating your shift dress. Okay, so as usual, I have drawn my margin lines. I must always work with my margin line. So you have your my top line, and you have my center front, and this is the front of the shift dress. So I will write it here for you to see. This is my center front, okay, and this is my top line. So all my measurements start from here. So you're going to have your measurement already. For this shift dress, we are going to be working with our bust. Like I used to say, every horizontal measurement has a corresponding vertical measurement. By now, if you're in my class, you will understand that. So for every horizontal measurement, which is your round measurement around your body, your bust, your waist, your hip, let me explain, has a corresponding vertical measurement. Meaning, if I take my bust round, what will make me know that this is where my bust is? It is a vertical measurement of your shoulder to your bust point. That is where you're going to mark your bust. Now, you took your waist measurement. What helps you to know where am I putting my waist on this fabric? It is your shoulder to your waist, which we call the half length. So that's the vertical measurement of that round part. Your hip, is the same thing. Your shoulder to your hip. So that's why I said for every measurement you take round, you also have a straight measurement of that. That you should understand. Is it clear? Okay, it is. Okay, so let's continue. Alright, so we're going to be drafting our shift dress, and we're going to be cutting our shift dress. It's all the same thing, right? So I'm going to be working with my bust, my waist, my hip, my shoulder measurement, my half length, my what do you call it, your waist to your hip, or your hip depth. I call it hip depth, but I think a lot of people call it waist to hip, okay, and then the dress length. All right, the other last thing is going to be your armhole. But in the course of my teaching, if you've been attending my classes, I've given you a principle or a formula to get your armhole. In case you don't have your client, you didn't take that measurement. So what is the formula again? It is your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. Whatever you get there gives you your armhole, okay? So I'm going to be marking all that now. So I'm going to start by marking my armhole. So mine is, if you want it loose, then you can actually make it loose as well. So mine is 9.5, okay, and then after the 9.5, I'm marking my waist measurement. Mine is 18, and I'm marking my hip measurement at 27, and then you can mark your full length, whatever you're using. I'm using a knee length measurement, okay, so mine is at 14. So please, whatever you want, if you want it shorter, I'll just mark it. Now I'm marking another line. Why am I doing this? It's just to help me draw a straight line, okay? So once I've done that, I'll pick up my ruler and I will turn all these marked points into straight lines, right? So just do that. So I'm turning all of them into straight lines, and then what you're not seeing, I'm just marking my my dress length. Like I'm just drawing a line at that point, okay? But I will show you. There's nothing I'm doing there anyway. So I've done that. So let's come back to the top. So we're going to start with our neckline. Now we have a basic neckline of 3 inches. So first you're going to mark that. So I'll mark in my 3 inches. Okay, then I'll mark my shoulder. Please mark whatever is your shoulder divided by 2. That is what I'm doing here. Now I'm assuming that this pattern is my fabric. So everything I'm going to do here, that's why I said you're going to do same to your fabric. So I'm going to be adding all my eases plus my sewing allowance on this paper like I would have done on my fabric. So please follow me. Okay, so I said my shoulder divided by 2 is 8, right? Plus half of an inch sewing allowance, and I've marked that. Is that clear? I will come down to my chest line. This is my chest line, right? And I'm going to mark whatever I have here. And I said it was my shoulder divided by 2 plus half an inch sewing allowance. I'll extend that into a straight line. Okay? So I've done that. And then I'll drop my shoulder by 1 inch. Our shoulders are not straight. It's slant. Okay? Then I'll join that point to the part I came backwards 3 inches for my neckline. Okay, so have you seen that? So I drew a shoulder slant, slope, whatever you call it, but it's a line. Okay, so after doing that, I normally don't curve my armhole yet until I have imputed the measurement here. So I'm going to start with this. Now, to impute the measurement on my chest, I had explained one thing, that this armhole is going to be how fitted or how loose you want your dress to be at your armhole part. If you don't want it very tight, when you get your results of whatever your armhole is going to be, right, you can actually drop it by half of an inch just to loosen it up, okay? So now I'm going to take my bust measurement at this part. I'm going to be having my bust divided by 4, okay? That is going to give me whatever, like my bust is, I'm using 46, it's 45 though, but I just work with 46, okay? So divided by 4, I'm going to have 11.5. I'm going to add ease to that. It is a shift dress, meaning it's a straight wear, but it is also loose on your body. Normally, I would tell you add half of an inch. But everybody has a different amount of ease that they like. So whatever amount of ease that you prefer is what you should add to this part. If you want it a bit, it's not too loose. It just, you know, it just sits on your body. You can use half an inch as ease after your measurement. But if you want it a bit free, not too tight on you, you use 1 inch, okay? So now I'm taking my bust divided by 4, and this is what I have, 11 and a half. For me, I'm going to add 1 inch to that. I don't want it too tight. But when I want it to hold me, it is not tight, but just stay freely, but not also too free, I'll use half of an inch. I'll tell you my logic. Now, I'm coming to my waist. At my waist part, I'm going to take my waist divided by 4. Whatever you added at this point, you're going to add half an inch to that ease. So first of all, let me mark my waist divided by 4, okay? And I'm having turn and a half. Now, whatever I added here, I added 1 inch as ease here. I'm going to be adding 1 and a half at this point. If I had added half an inch here, I would have been adding only 1 at this point. Is it clear? Please watch it again. So now I added 1 inch as ease. I'm going to add 1 and a half as my ease. This has nothing yet to do with my sewing allowances. This is called ease. Ease is what just makes your dress stay freely on your body. I want it free. Like I said, if you don't want it too free, please, at this point, at your armhole point, mark half. At your waistline, just add only 1 inch. That's what I mean. And at the hip part, whatever you added at this point is the same thing you're going to add on your hip and the down part of the dress. Then the down part, you can extend it to if you want it like an A. Okay, I'm still going to show you that. So at the hip point now, you will take whatever your hip is divided by 4 plus half to 1 inch. Choose which one you're using. I'm using 1, so I'll add 1 inch. Okay, so whatever I'm adding at the armhole is the same thing I'm adding at the hip pad. Now whatever I have here at this point, everything at this point is just exactly what I'm going to have at the hemline. Okay, now I'm going to explain another thing to you. So it's the same thing I have. Let me rule that out, then I'll explain what I want to explain. So please turn them into straight lines. Okay, a straight line here. Okay, and then you join it back here. Now once you have done this, you can now take your curve. Please don't forget, if you want to do a kimono, it's a different thing. You're supposed to come out from here and extend your sleeve out, but here I'm going to be having an attached sleeve. Okay, so in that case I'll divide my armhole into 2 and then mark backwards half of an inch. All right, so I'm going to take from here, draw my line from the drop of the shoulder to that part I just marked. So that's what I'm having, and then I'll use my curve and create my curve exactly to this point. Now because I'm doing a mix and match, I cannot draft my back on top of this. If I wasn't, I would have actually drafted my back, which I'm still going to, and use it to cut it out on another paper, right? So for your back, you place the ruler from this straight line. You're not coming in here. This is just for the front. We have breast at the front, that's why we're taking this off. But at the back we don't. So place your curve here on that straight line. Okay, this way, and just link your armhole back to the straight line. So we have the back armhole here, and we have the front armhole here. The body is the same thing. For the neckline, you decide what kind of neckline you want. Because it's a shift dress, this shift dress, I'm not having any zip to it. So when you're not adding any zip to it, you have to extend your neckline. But if you want the neckline closed, then you must have a cut at your back. Just a cut down about between 5 to 7 inches is fine. Then you now put a loop. So of course the loop comes with a button, or you put a short zip. It also works, but it's not a zip that's going to go all the way down. Okay, so for me, I'm going to be working with a neckline of 5 inches. I can take 5, I can take 4.5, whatever I want. So I can take 4.5. When I'm done sewing it, to go to 5. Okay, and then I'll come down about 5 inches as well. You can do 5.5, you can do 6, whatever works for you. I'm working with a style though, so I'll still fall back to that style. So I'm coming down 5. Okay, that's for the front. So I'll just do the line I tell you guys I like doing, so that it will help me when I am creating my neck curve. Okay, so that is the front. I'm going to mark the back on this same pattern. So for the back, I'm coming down 2.5 inches is fine. You can actually do anything you want. This neckline thing is just exactly whatever you want it to be. Okay, so for me 2.5 is fine. You can do 2 as well, you know, so that by the time you sew it goes to 2.5. So I've reduced mine to 2. Okay, so I'll just draw a line and I'll place my curve. If you notice, I've flipped my curve over and I'll draw that. Okay, so now here I have the back and here I have the front. Same thing with the armhole part. Here I have the back and here I have the front. I'll be cutting the back out first before the front. Okay. So now on this side, what we have done is just fine. We are done, we're ready. But most times I prefer for it to sit a bit loose on my body, so I'm going to be creating an A-line. So So if you want to create an A-line to this same dress, at the hemline, this is your hemline, I'm going to come out. I haven't yet added my sewing allowances like I had said, okay? So now I want to do that. So I'm going to come out, I'm extending the hemline already by 1 plus my sewing allowance of 1 inch. That's what I've done there. So for this one, if you're using this pattern the way it is, please add your 1 inch to the side. So add your 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, and then you close it up. But because I'm doing a flare, I'm just going to add my 1 inch sewing allowance at this point, and then I'm going to connect from my bust, okay? From my bust all the way to this part. So as easy as that. So just place your ruler. It's going to give you like an A shape, A line. So I'm using red so that you can see the difference with what I did. So have you seen that? So I connected it here, and it came from here. So it's not curving, it's not doing anything, it just came straight. That's me creating an A line. So that's the way I want it to be. So if you don't want it this way, please give it shape. But before you cut it out, add your 1 inch sewing allowance. So I'm going to use this. I'll place it now on another pattern and cut out. So placing it there, just like I would have placed the front on the back and cut out the back first. So that's why I said for you guys that are doing your freehand, this is a great opportunity as well. Okay, so let me place that and show you how to cut. Okay guys, so I've placed, just like it, I've placed another fabric, right? So I've done that. I just need to stick down some parts I'm going to be cutting through. Like I had told you earlier, this pattern of us is shift. So whenever you want to cut on your dress, maybe you always pin down. So it's the same thing we're about doing. Okay. Now before we cut, one other thing I left out so that you don't miss it. Please don't ever forget to add your shoulder allowance. Please, because if you cut it without that, we're going to have a shortage, right? So that's what I've done now. So extend your neckline up. Always add that. Okay. So having done that, I will just pin down. So why am I pinning? Just so that it doesn't move. Okay. So now the first thing I'm going to do is to cut out the back. So watch, I'm cutting from the neck, okay? And what I'm doing here is to cut the back out first. So when I'm done cutting the back, I can now lift up my paper. So I'm cutting the shoulder now. Okay. Then I'm also cutting the back armhole first. Now for me, pattern helps you to conserve your fabric, so you're not wasting it. So it's not a freehand, maybe I'm not condemning anything, but I'm saying that this works that way for me. It helps you to conserve your fabric, okay? So I'm just cutting all this out. I'm doing this on camera so you see, and please, let me cut this off before I make that explanation. So one other thing I nearly forgot to do, which please you shouldn't, so that, I mean, you guys are all designers, so you should know, okay, is that you should add your hem allowance, your sewing allowance at the hemline, okay? So you can do more than one, right? So I think I'm going to be doing, maybe I'll do like 1.5. Do whatever suits you, but you have between, if you're going to be using lining, you're doing half, please. You can't do more than half if you're working with lining. But if you're just going to be folding the hem like me, take between 1 and 1.5. even 2 is fine. But like I said, if you're going to be attaching lining, don't use more than half of an inch. Okay, so I'm now cutting one. So the center part is just what is left, so I'm just going to cut that out as well. Now once you're done doing this, you can just separate your back from your front, because right now you have your back, which is what we are trying to get out. Okay? So this is the part I was telling you. Now if you wanted a slimmer neck, you know, you didn't want your neckline as wide as mine, so maybe you're just using 3x3 neckline, okay? So and then the back is just 1, so it's like a choking neck. If you did that, at this point at the back, you will slit it, right? So you open this up to the part of this armhole, or however low you want it, so the back will stay open. So you put a loop to hold it, or you put a zip. That way you can wear it, because if you don't do that, it will not pass through your head. Okay, so that's just that. So after doing this, I'm going to now take off my pin. I'll explain to you why I went through this process, and I now know that, you know, this is my back pattern. Okay. So I know that this is my back. Okay, my back. Shift, always label your patterns, please, in case you leave it for your worker, so that you will not come back and be hearing stories. So once I've done that, sorry, I just love my pattern being neat, so I'm trying to make sure I sort all that out. Okay, so we now have our back pattern piece, and I'll keep that aside. Then I will now trim off everything that has to do with my front. Okay. Have you seen that? So I've trimmed off the neckline. I want to do same to the armhole. Oops, sorry. I'm just trying to make sure you see that, okay? So you just trim off the armhole. Let's start from here, so my paper won't keep falling off. Remember, you have the line you drew, so just follow that, please. Alright, so that's all. So now, why I did a pattern, like I said, I'm having 2 different fabrics that I'm using. Okay, so it will be easier for me to place this to cut that fabric. So when I'm cutting, I'm going to show you that. So let's get to our cutting session.